Hi guys, and welcome to this Maya video tutorial. Today we're going to have a little look at how to create a modeling turntable for showing off your models. So I've loaded up the low polygon sword that we made, and this is just going to be a really quick demo. Obviously you can always capture from whichever viewport that you have set up, but what is a good practice to kind of do is actually set up a camera. So I'm going to go to the create menu, go to cameras and create a camera. And obviously that will get dropped in at the origin, but to actually look at through this camera we need to go to panels, perspective, camera 1. And when we actually move now, we'll be moving and rotating the camera based on that viewpoint. Now obviously this is very similar to working with perspective, but what's cool is that you can actually lock down these parameters that will allow you to essentially kind of have a stable shot the entire time. So I'm going to highlight all of these parameters, right click and say lock selected, and that will no longer allow me to rotate in this view and have me something stable to kind of go back to and play blast from. Okay, so let's look at how we can kind of do it. We actually have our unified sword model, and I'm going to set up a rotation animation for it that's just going to turn on the spot 360 degrees. So if we start to rotate, we can see that this is the channel that we want to deal with, which is rotate Y. So on keyframe 1, or frame 1, I'm just going to right click on rotate Y and say key selected. Previously we've been keyframing absolutely everything, but just for simplicity's sake, I only actually really need to keyframe rotate Y. Then I'm going to go to my last frame, 120, and it could be as long as you want, it's up to you, and I'm going to put in 360 for 360 degrees. And if I key selected there, I'll actually have a full rotation. And if I were to just press play, we'll actually get our object rotating on the spot. So it's really, really nice. What you will see though is that Maya actually slows down and speeds up our animation by default, and we might not want that kind of an effect. To actually affect that, we need to go into Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor, and it will present to us all the channels that have been animated. And again, because we only animated rotate Y, it's only listing that channel. Now you can see here that by looking at our animation curve, we're actually getting very little change in value, so slow change, then steady change, and then slow change at the end. So it's slowing to speed up and then slowing to speed down. But if we want a completely constant animation curve, obviously we could manipulate these ourselves, but there are some really nice presets that we can utilize. So if we highlight both keyframes, which are these orange ticks, and then use this straight line here, which is linear tangents, it will give us constant change. There's no sharp peaks or shallowness to it, which means that there's no acceleration, no deceleration. It's just completely constant spacing of our object. And if we press play now, we'll actually have a really nice turntable for our object itself. One thing that people do always miss out is that frame 1 and frame 120 are the exact same thing, which means that you actually have two frames that repeat itself. So by practice, it's always good to have this keyframe, which is the full 360, one frame after the last keyframe of your animation, or last frame of your animation. So I'm going to increase the animation to 121. I'm going to shift and left click to grab that keyframe and drag it to the right by one frame. I'm then going to decrease my animation back to 120, and that will mean that I only have one instance of it being completely lined up, and that is on the very first frame. That will prevent any sticking in your turntables when it actually repeats. It's very, very smooth, which is really cool. So for you to actually have this set up to then upload a video to YouTube, we need to prepare this viewport ready for it. So first of all, I'm going to not show the grid anymore. I currently have wireframe unshaded. That's okay because I actually am going to show off the polygon structure of this model itself, which is kind of good. But you can toggle that on and off if you want to. That's under shading, wireframe unshaded. Other things we could potentially do is turn on screen space ambient occlusion, which is quite nice because it actually gives us a little bit of shading around our thing, but it can be a little bit expensive sometimes, but you know, it's up to you. You can see it add here to the ring, so it's completely by choice. And if you remember from last time, to create a play blast, it's right click on your timeline, go into the options, and you have to make sure that you're going to be creating a video format. Usually there are two choices, image or the top one, and although mine might be a little bit different, you want a video format being produced. And that usually comes with some encoding for it. Mine's set to H.264 as well as quality. You want to make sure that quality has been set to 100. My one's kind of blanked out at the minute, but if I go to image, I can make sure that I have control over that usually. Next is the overall scale. You want to make sure it's set to a scale of 1. And we want to make sure that we are saving this particular file. So you need to have that turned on. And then if we use the browse menu, it will tell you where it's going to save. Currently it's going to save it into the default folder, which I don't want. I want it going into my low poly one, but it doesn't look like I have that project on here at the minute. So in default, movies is fine. And instead of jet barrel roll, I'm going to use sword turntable. Hit save and hit play blast, and Maya will play through the entire animation and present to you usually the movie file itself. Here it is, ready to be uploaded. And remember, that would be saved in that particular folder itself. If you're having issues, then please let me know. Remember, because you have a Google account, you instantly have a YouTube account, and all you do is select your particular username, go to the Creator Studio, and upload this particular video. You will then want to follow the instructions from previous tutorials as to how to embed your video into a blog post. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.